All right. Well, the next the next album couldn't be any more different, guys.
Not really.
Matt's gonna run the numbers, and actually, he's gonna be our first take as well. So go ahead, Matt.
Okay, so this is the Undertones self-titled album, The Undertones, coming in at number 388 in the 1970s on Best Ever Albums, number 38 in 1979, number 1,958 of all time. It's their highest-rated album on Best Ever Albums, and I guess as John said, this was a John special. I had never heard of The Undertones, so this was totally new to me. So I very much enjoyed this. This is another take. It's another punk band, a British punk band. I really liked a lot of energy, just like a lot of other punk stuff that we've listened to. There's fast songs here. There's melody. I like and the production I think stood out to me as being is very good. It's very crisp production. I don't know if I'm assuming it's probably a remastered version that we listened to. But I thought that the sound was pretty full, and I like the elements in here that kind of add elements to, because punk can be like something like the Ramones is what who we've covered before, have great songs, but they really do stay in their lane of what they do. But it's this kind of deviates a little here and there. They add a little bit different instrumentation. I think there's keyboards. Which sounds like keyboards. There's certain guitar tones that are a little bit more of a crisper guitar tone, and a melodic playing that's going on. There's some guitar solos that are happening here that you're not going to get
in organ too, maybe.
Organ, yeah, some sort of keys. There's guitar solos that you're really. I don't think the Ramones ever did guitar solos. So when I think of things like that, to me, there are more interesting elements that are happening here. I'm not necessarily saying that it's better than the Ramones, because I think you got to give obviously the Ramones props for just kind of pretty much inventing punk, when they came around. But this was a really strong album. I liked, songs like "I Gotta Getta," just really upbeat, really catchy. What else? Family Entertainment was kind of a. I usually don't pay attention to lyrics, but that seems like it's kind of like, is that an incestual kind of a thing? Oh, is this sexual nature
that's the vibe I got.
Members. Yeah,
that's the vibe I got from it.
Yeah. Male model made me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a male model. It's like, yeah, me too. So just really
Girls
enjoyable.
Don't Like It is very funny too. The first three songs all are in their own way. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I'm big thumbs up on this. This was like the opposite of the Residents. I still never heard of them, but this might have been my favorite album of the week, actually. It's close with another one, but big thumbs up. Trying to look at the other. Here Comes the Summer. Yeah, really, I don't think there's a weak song on here. I think I just really upbeat, good punk music, and I'm a thumbs up. I like I said, I do like a little bit of the variety of the different instrumentation that added a little bit more of a few more layers to this, which I appreciated.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Matt. This I like the fact that they were variations of a theme, especially for songs that were so short. They didn't seem like, even though they didn't overstay their welcome at all, they didn't seem drill and kill either. Even songs that were as short as like 47 seconds didn't seem quite that quick, like Casbah Rock, right? Which I laughed at the name of that. I'm like, well, that's interesting.
Where are they getting that from? Yeah.
Here's what I would say about this album. I was trying to rank this album, and I said, if there's something that's not revolutionary, but it's so freaking good, like how high can I put something that's not in any way reinventing the wheel, but I just enjoyed from start to finish, thoroughly enjoyed. And that would be, I think this album, more so than any album we've covered in the 2 decades we've done this, is an example of something that is as basic as it gets, but the level of enjoyment for me was incredible. I mean, this is my lane. I think this is really polished. Matt kept saying punk. This is almost like pop punk.
Yeah.
And there's elements of glam rock in this as well. Like, as I was listening to it, I'm like, this is like if T-Rex and Sweet merged with like late 70s punk, but also had like the pop sensibility that, you always mention the Ramones stuff, but like I think of a lot of punk music being influenced by 60s rock and roll, and even sometimes 50s rock and roll.
Too, yeah.
50s rock and roll too, yeah. And that had this element in it too, but it also had big choruses. It had I really enjoyed this album. I can expand on there in terms of sonically. If you're trying to hear what it is, it's straight ahead, what you would recognize as like in the modern day, like pop punk.
Yeah.
But I think we've heard so much watered down pop punk, and there's another album this week that does this style very well as well. But like there's an art to writing a very catchy short song, and there's a real talent to writing a ton of really catchy short songs, and this definitely does it. So Josh, I want to throw over to you, but I'll jump back on at the end too.
Yeah, you guys are a bit higher on this album than I am.
Ooh.
There is some craft here, and I definitely got the sense that they were trying to mix maybe punk rock with that 50s and 60s rock. There's a structure to the songs, and the way that they are trying to create melody and especially catchy choruses harkens back to those hits of the 60s. And so I think this is a band that, while maybe their speed and contemporaries in the punk rock world is reminiscent of that, they are also one of those bands that's probably, well, like every band, they're influenced by the Beatles and all those other bands that were around at that time.
Well, not every, Josh. I doubt the Residents were too influenced by the Beatles.
Their influence had not be like the Beatles. But one of the main hang-ups I had with this album is that the lead singer's voice did not work for me at all. And it really, the way his voice vibrates when he sings, really stuck in my craw. I couldn't let it go. His voice is a little high too, which those two things together made it seem like he was straining most of the time to sing the songs. And the songs themselves, while I could see what they were going for, they were not, it wasn't like this one of these hidden gems where this band was like really talented and really catchy songs. It's like they tried but didn't get there. And I felt this way about another band we talked about, but I cannot find what it was, because I feel like I said the same or a similar thing before about a band, and I'll have to look and see who we talked about in the past, but maybe a 60s band or something like that. But it was a noble effort, but it didn't get there for me. It's not pop punk enough for me, or it's not, the songs are not catchy enough for me to get it over the hill in the pop punk mode. I agree with you that it's kind of that genre and less punk. Their content of their lyrics, they're not really political in that way. They're more talking about not nostalgia, but like being young and kind of the, I don't know how old they were, but love and being horny and all those sorts of things. And we haven't mentioned too that they are an English band. They're from Britain, so I think they're perfectly fine, I guess, is how I felt by the end of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just didn't work for me on some level, and I feel like all the other bands that they were trying to, they were either their contemporaries or trying to be like, just worked for me better overall.
Huh.
Well, two things to clean real quick. Number one, they're from Northern Ireland, so
Okay.
they're over there. So I do want to put that 'cause there's there. And, we haven't talked about it yet. We don't need to go into it. So for those listening, we're going to be talking about the Buzzcocks later, but some of you may be listening on YouTube and be like, how can they not be talking about the Buzzcocks? They are in the same lane as the Buzzcocks. Now, they come different, and they're different sides of the same coin, right? But I think it would not be a complete review if we didn't say that, much like when we covered the Residents and the Slits, and it was very difficult not to merge those two groups together when they were in the same episode.
You mean the Raincoats?
The Raincoats. I'm sorry, I said Red. Yeah, the Raincoats and the Slits. I apologize. It's hard to not talk about the Buzzcocks when we talk about the Undertones, because they're doing much of the same thing. But I hear what you're saying, Josh. The lead singer's voice was no problem for me. I actually liked it, to be quite honest. We joke that I'm the lyrics guy, but the lyrics guy doesn't mean that I can't appreciate basic lyrics if they make me chuckle. I don't need it to be deep poetry. You know what I mean? And they spoke to me in the sense that this was another one of those albums that evoked the feeling of being young, which I think I like about the late 70s. Like, a lot of these albums evoke feelings like anger, desperation, happiness that are very much tied to I remember there was a critic who, when we did that Rod Stewart album that we didn't love, but he said, he said, this is an album by a young man talking about being happy, being young, right? That was how he described the album. I feel like in the 70s, there's a lot of stuff that are talking to the experience of being in your late teens and early 20s and mid 20s a little bit.
Yeah.
And I thought this album did a great job of evoking that feeling for me. But I get what you're saying, Josh. If it didn't click, that because it didn't reinvent the wheel, I could see how you would think, But for me, it was an excellent reinventing of the wheel.
Yeah, it's like that. God, what was that? Or
non-reinvention of the wheel.
What was that band from Ohio that we talked about that was?
Blue Ash.
Yeah, I think that kind of reminded me of them. I think that was the good but not great and not transcendent.
I thought, not so much about the lyrics, but I see what you're saying, because but the sound evoked that too, John, like the youth of the energy and whatnot. And there's some great riffs on here, like Teenage Kicks. That's like a Sex Pistols type riff. That's like a heavier, fuller sound, kind of like this toned down, kind of minor key guitar tone. And it's, I don't want to say that it's not an angry song, but there's more heft to that song. And actually looking at that now, that must have been the single, because that's got by far the most listens on Spotify. But yeah, between like the riffs and the keyboards and the, I don't know. There wasn't anything in here that I didn't like, really. And yes, it kind of, the parts, it kind of runs together and kind of gets a little bit of that sameness that you might get with a punk song, and pop punk. You're right, John. This definitely it's very poppy and catchy, and which is obviously in my wheelhouse as well. But I don't need it to, I don't always need my music to reinvent the wheel. If you want to just, I think you had what'd you say? You said that about Tom Petty a couple weeks ago, John, that he didn't reinvent the wheel. He just really he polished the wheel, or he really refined it. Yeah. And I think that there's something to be said for it, because at the end of the day, it's still really hard to write a good song, right? Let alone an album's worth, of songs. And to keep me interested for, 40 plus minutes or whatever, even though there's a ton of songs on here, it's another one of those albums where there's a lot of songs and they're all like under, 3 minutes, a lot of them in the under 2 minutes. So, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. Never heard of them. And John, it surprises me that you never heard.
I was surprised too, because literally everybody who sounds like this from the era, I feel like I've listened to the hell out of their albums. So I don't know how they did not pop up on my radar. I thought the same thing, Matt. I'm like, because I've listened to every other band and deeply enjoyed every other band that sounds like this. I'll point out that Family Entertainment, Teenage Kicks, Here Comes the Summer, I think those are incredibly good songs. I also enjoyed, and actually I felt there were no bad songs. I also really like Jimmy Jimmy was another song I liked. So if you're looking for some places to start, that would be where I'd start, because I just felt they were very tight, very enjoyable, and this was a breeze to listen to.
Yeah, and this doesn't sound as dated as maybe some of the other stuff too, because I just, like I said, I think the production is pretty. This reminds me similar to the Sex Pistols in the sense that I get a crisp, full sound.
There's a gleam, glam rock. There's a gleam to it. I felt like
Yeah, as opposed to a grimier, more garage rock kind of grungier sound that some of the other punk music might have. But I don't know. It's good.
But I like Josh giving a spicy take too.
I know, right?
The fact that he went outside the lane and was the one to do. I will admit that I was surprised. I thought this one was going to be in Josh's lane, but
me too.
That's why we do the shows, because we throw curveballs to each other. So
it's always music is always it can vary. It's so what am I trying to say? I don't know. It varies from day to day sometimes too. Like if you hear this album on another day, could have been I could have felt a different way about it, but
yeah, and that's cool. And then people can join in the conversation and agree with us, respect our take while differing from it, or tell us that we're idiots. So, and I enjoy all of them based on what you take. So, yeah, but be nice. So, all right. So two thumbs up. One, Josh, would you say thumbs down for you?
I'd say thumbs in the middle. Yeah.
Thumbs
Middle
in the middle
thumb.
for you.
Yeah.
Okay,
The middle
gotcha.
thumb from Josh.
We will eventually do a full album guide, the three of us. That's a project that we'll work on at some point, where you'll be able
We're
to
writing a book now? Is that
Wait,
what-
what's
not
going on?
write a
We're doing
book,
what now?
not write a book, but we're gonna like. I'll tell you about an idea I
Oh,
have that I
okay.
think you guys will like too. So I have all kinds of freaking ideas.
John just volunteered me for something. Okay.
Call me
Let's do it.
Thomas Edison over here with all the damn ideas I have. So